What's up? This is episode number 3 of our $5,000 bankroll challenge, where my goal is to profit $5,000 within 1 month or 125 hours of playing time. I'm going to post every single session, whether I win or lose, it doesn't matter. Every session is getting posted. In our first 2 episodes, we are in a total profit of $654. Our total playing time hours is exactly 9 hours, which gives us over $72 per hour. We got an amazing start in this $5,000 challenge and we are running good. We're looking to continue this run today, where we're going to buy into a $1, $3 cash game at my local casino for a total of $400. I hope you guys enjoy it and let me know what you think. Let's jump right in. My first playable hand, I get dealt the pocket kings on the button. +1 raises it up to $10. Low jack makes the call, and I decide it's not enough money in the pot. Let's pump it up to $40. They both make the call, and we're 3 ways to a flop that brings out a ace. So I guess it's true. These are definitely ace magnets, and that is the last card that I wanted to see. It's check to me, and I decide to play this passively with the ace being out there, and with me betting $40 pre-flop, I think someone could definitely have an ace here. So I check it with my opponents, and it's 3 ways to a turn. That brings a 2 of clubs. Once it's checked to the low jack, he leads with $70. Now, I literally just sat down and I have no information on my opponents, and with me raising $40 pre-flop, I'm expecting my opponents are pretty strong right here. So I decide to fold, and looking back on this footage now, I definitely make the wrong play, considering after the other opponent folds, my opponent shows 8, 9 of hearts for complete air. And looking back at this now, I should have definitely continued, obviously knowing that he bluffed. But just for the simple fact that he didn't 3-bet pre-flop, which I forgot during this hand when he bet. I should have remembered that he just called the +1 $10 raise, and I should have definitely remembered that, because considering he didn't raise pre-flop, he is less likely to have an ace in the spot, and that's an important information that I unfortunately forgot in this position. So I paid for it dearly, and we lose a quick $40 here. So, but I did get a great piece of information, and that information is my opponent led with $70 in a pot of $124 on a bluff. So we're going to keep an eye on that, because he bet about 60% pot on a bluff. And if I continue to see this in future hands where he's bluffing 50 to 60% pot for a bluff, then that could be a bet sizing tell that I can exploit in the future. So we'll see if we can make that work. Our next playable hand, we get another premium. What's going on? Back-to-back pockets. We get the aces. I raise it to $20 in the low jack. High jack and cutoff and small blind all make the call. Not really what I wanted to see going 4 ways to a flop, but it is what it is, because we hit top set. Let's go. There are some straight draws and some flush draws out there, but with 2 people to act after me, I'm going to go ahead and go the passive route, and hopefully someone bets so I can put in the check raise. So once the small blind checks it to me, I check it, and my other 2 opponents unfortunately check it back. And during that time, my opponent actually said he didn't check and the dealer ran it anyways. I don't know if this is some kind of angling he's trying to do here or what exactly is going on, but I definitely seen him say he checked when the dealer asked, and He says he still didn't check, so I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird. But the turn comes out a 10 of heart, and now this small blind is going to lead with $20. I'm going to pump it up, and I 3-bet it to $60, and everyone folds, surprisingly. So I'm not sure exactly what was going on with the other opponent, saying he didn't check, he wanted to bet, but, you know, it is what it is. I guess he got scared by the small blind lead and me 3-betting, so I don't know. It is what it is. We still get a decent pot here with a set of aces. So on to the next hand, and the under the gun is going to straddle to $6. It's folded to me in the hijack, and I pump it up to 25. Now, everyone's seen I had some premium hands, and I've been raising it pretty aggressively with these premium hands, so I'm trying to remain balanced. Ace-4 is not the greatest hand, obviously, but I do want to have some weaker hands in my range that I'm going to raise it up with, so, you know, these people are not thinking I'm always raising with premiums. So with that being said, I'm in position here, or in late position, I should say, and that's why I decided to pump it up to 25 with ace-4 off. It folds around to the straddler, who calls, and this is actually exactly who I want in the pot with me, because this is the same guy on our first hand who had the bet sizing of 60% on the bluff. So I've actually seen him off camera doing the same thing. You guys haven't seen it on here because I wasn't in those pots, so I think it's a pretty good read I got on him, where he bets around 50 to 60% pot when he's bluffing. So let's see if he continues that on this particular hand. So the flop's going to come out with an ace, so we did get top pair, we're heads up here. He checks it to me, so with that being said, I'm going to check it back and try to see what he does, because I think he could have a wide range here considering his previous hands. He hasn't really shown a lot of strong hands with, you know, $20 pre-flop raises. And he was also in the straddler, so I expect he's pretty wide range right here. And I don't want to scare him away, and I'm going to give him the opportunity to bluff if he wants to. So with that being said, I decide to check it, and the 10 of club comes out on the turn. It does bring in a flush, but again, he does have a very wide range, and we're just going to see how this all goes and see if we have some bet sizing tells here. And the villain does lead with $20, so it's a pot of 54, so it's not necessarily half, but it's pretty close. And I do have top pair here, so I'm going to make the call and see what happens on the river. The river comes out a blank, and now the villain leads with $60. Like I said, this opponent has been pretty consistent with his bet sizing and betting 60% on his bluffs. So with that being said, I'm going to make the call and see what he has. And he shows us Jack 6 suited with complete air. I read this guy like a book. I got a pretty good read on his bet sizing here, and it's accurate. So he is bluffing about 50 to 60% of pot size when he's bluffing. I haven't seen him do that when he's actually got something good. So we got a good read on him, and we get a decent sized pot for it, and we actually got our money back from him on the pocket king's hand. So I'll take that all day with ace-4 offsuit. Let's go on to the next. It's folded to me in the cutoff, and I raised it to $25. Now, I know this is I continue with a pretty aggressive raises pre-flop here, raising $20 and $25, but a lot of these people have been limping, and I just want to make a statement here that I'm here to play for big stacks. I don't want to, be limping in and getting a bunch of people to call, and that's just not my strategy here, and that's not my play style. I like to get aggressive, and I like to play for large stacks, so that's what we're going to do. And the straddler is the only one who makes the call. We're heads up to a flop. That gives me a gut shot straight draw. If a king were to come out, we would make the nuts. When my opponent checks it to me, I decide to get aggressive here and try to steal the pot. So I lead with another $25, and he makes the call. We're heads up to a turn that brings the queen of spade. and my opponent is going to check it to me again. And I'm not really putting on my opponent on a queen here. He didn't, re-raise me pre-flop, and he was just a straddler, so he may have a 10 here, or he may be on a straight draw or a flush draw here. And with that being said, I want to put maximum pressure on him. He's playing passively, and I'm going to try to just steal it here and get him off the hand. So with that being said, I lead with $100, and my opponent immediately announces all in for a total of $268. And that's the absolute last thing I wanted to hear. Obviously I only have ace high, so I don't even really have showdown value here. And what is he really going to check raise all in with other than a good hand? So with that being said, I'm going to fold here, and he shows me a pair of 10s and says he has an ace but doesn't show it, which I think is pretty odd that he wouldn't show the ace but shows the 10. Either way, he had me beat, but it is what it is. It was bad timing for me. It was a great bet on him, even if he only had a 10. Great bet, and you win. Next up, we get dealt King 10 suited. It's folded to the low jack, who limps in. Now, you guys know me, I don't like to limp in, so I raise it to an aggressive $20 in the cutoff. Big blind decides to make the call along with the low jack, and we're 3 ways to a flop. That brings me nothing worth betting, so when it's checked to me, I decide to check it back. And the turn brings out a spade. Big blind checks again, and low jack bets $40. Now this opponent in particular, the low jack, he has a pretty wide range. I've been watching him play. I just know this particular opponent can have any 2 cards under the sun the way he's been playing off camera. So I'm going to make the call, even though I do have complete air, but I'm going to try to get him off the hand on the river by betting aggressively if I see signs of weakness. So I make the call, and big blind also makes the call. And the river comes out a 4 of heart, pairing the board. Big blind checks again, and low jack bets $40. Now, this is a $40 bet and a $164 pot, so I would definitely take this as some kind of weakness. So with that being said, big blind is also playing very passively. He's been checking it every street. And with that being said, I think this is a good spot to try to steal this by going all in. So that's exactly what I do, because that's the only way I'm going to win this, is by trying to get my opponents to fold. So I shove it, and big blind snap calls. What? He's been playing passively this entire time, checking it down every street. What in the world does this guy got? Low jack folds. I had a good read on him. I knew he wasn't strong. Then my opponent shows us he has ace 9 of suited with the nut flush. I'm honestly surprised he didn't bet on the turn or even raise. And I'm surprised he didn't lead with a bet on the river. It's terrible timing for me. He definitely set a trap, and he played it well. I fell for it, and it is what it is. I have to add more money to my stack, considering now I'm short stacked. So I tell the dealer, give me another $200, and let's go to the next hand. This time I get dealt queen jack of spades in the low jack position. Under the gun limps, and I raise it up to $15. Cutoff calls, and we're heads up to a flop. That brings me a flush draw and a gut shot straight draw, which is pretty good. But I'm going to check it around and see what comes out, because my opponent is actually talking a lot. This is the same opponent from the previous hand that I said has a very wide range, and I tried to get him off the hand, and he ended up folding. This is the same person. Like I said, I know this opponent has a very wide range, and the way he's been playing is very fishy. So with that being said, I'm going to check it here. The turn comes out a Queen of Club, and this is a good card for me. That gives me more outs if he does have, a pair. So with that being said, I'm going to lead with $20 and he makes the call. And my opponent, again, goes off talking, and, every time this opponent talks a lot, he hasn't really been showing very strong hands when it goes to showdown. So I don't expect this guy to be very strong here. The river comes out of 5 of club. It's essentially a blank. But my opponent goes off talking again. Telling me, let's see the bluff. He wants me to bluff and bet this and that. And he's just talking a lot. So with that being said, I'm going to check it to see what he does here, because I have a feeling he wants to bluff the way he's been talking. So that's exactly what I do. And then the villain overbets with $100. And it doesn't really make sense why he would be betting $100 here. I don't think he has an ace here, considering he didn't 3-bet me pre-flop and he checked it on the flop. So I really don't think he has an ace here. He also didn't raise me on the turn. So that being said, I'm going to make the call. Let's see what he's got. And then he shows me Jack 9 offsuit for a gut shot straight draw on the turn. So he missed his out and he tried to bluff it, and we had a good read on him, and we take another decent pot down. Let's go. Our next playable hand, we get dealt 10-9 of hearts. It's folded to the hijack, who raises it to $15. I decide to re-raise it to $45, and he's the only caller. Now this is the same opponent who has a very wide range. On the previous couple of hands, he decided to switch seats, so he's now in another position, and we are heads up to a flop. That brings me a gut shot straight draw and a backdoor flush draw with 2 overcards. So I think this is a pretty good flop for me. And when my opponent checks it to me, I decide to bet $50, and he quickly folds, so we win an easy pot. Not too bad for a 10 high. So let's go on to the next hand. That brings us ace queen offsuit in the cutoff position. Under the gun raises to $10, and I decide to 3-bet it to $30. Big blind and under the gun both call, and we're 3 ways to a flop. That brings me a pair of queens with an ace kicker. It's checked to me, and I raise it to $50. Big blind is the only caller, and we're heads up to a turn, and my opponent checks it to me once more. And with me having an ace of spade in my hand, if another spade does come out, it would give me the nut flush. And I also have top pair, top kicker. So with that being said, my hand is pretty strong here. So I'm going to lead with $85 and try to build this pot up. And my opponent folds. So we take down another pot, which I'm happy with in this spot. Our next playable hand, we get dealt king jack offsuit in the hijack position. It's folded to me, and I raise it to $15, and big blind is the only caller. We're heads up to a flop. That brings me a pair of jacks with almost the top kicker. Villain is going to lead with $25, which is interesting considering this is a very dry board, and my opponent didn't 3-bet me pre-flop, so I think he may have a pair of jacks with me, maybe a weaker jack considering he didn't, re-raise me pre-flop. I don't put him on something like ace jack. So with that being said, I'm going to make the call. I think he has a jack with me, or maybe even just a pair of 7s. And then the turn brings out a 3 of diamond. Villain now leads with $40. Now, I don't think my opponent has a 3 in this spot. Why would he lead with $20 or $25 on the flop with a pair of 3s? That doesn't really make sense, so I'm not putting him on a 3. I still think he just may have a jack with me, or maybe even a pair of 7s. So with that being said, I make the call for $40. And we go to a river that brings a 10 of heart. Now my opponent leads with $75. and I'm not folding here with top pair and a pretty good kicker. So I make the call, and my opponent shows me pocket queens. What? That is disgusting because he didn't re-raise me pre-flop, so I definitely wasn't putting him on an overpair. So I guess well played. I definitely wasn't expecting that. Definitely put a big dent in my stack, but it is what it is. You know, it was a sneaky pocket queens, but we're gonna keep our head held high and move on to the next. Next up, we get dealt ace six of spades, and I'm first to act in the under the gun position. I raise it up to $15, and button and small blind both make the call. We're three ways to a flop. That only brings me second pair with a pair of sixes. So when it's checked to me, I decide to check it as well and, you know, just have some pot control here with only second pair. Button and small blind can definitely have a 9 in the range, so I'm going to play conservative and check it. And it's all the way checked around, so that's a good sign. And then the turn brings out another 6. That's what I love to see. Small blind is now leading with $35. And I don't want to scare anyone away here, so I'm just going to make the smooth call. And button makes the call as well, which is pretty good news for me. And the river comes out a 3 of spade, which is essentially a blank. And now villain shoves all in with $103 total. And I don't think much considering this is the same opponent that bet $100 earlier with jack high. So this opponent could really have anything here. He could definitely have a pair of 9s. He could have a 6 with me, which I would have him beat if he does. Unless if he has a6 specifically, but if not, I'm going to have him out kicked. And button ends up folding, so it's just us two, and my opponent shows jack 6 for a weaker 6. Then I show him the bad news, and we take it down with the trip 6s and ace high.
Like, I'll be right back.
Our next playable hand, we get dealt ace 10 of hearts. It's going to fold to the hijack, who limps it in. I raise it to $15 on the button. Small blind calls and hijack also makes the call, which gives us 3 ways to a flop. And it brings me second pair. So when it's checked to me, I decide to bet $20. We're in position, we got second pair, so let's go for it. And small blind's gonna fold and hijack calls, so we're heads up to a turn. That brings a 9 of club. My opponent checks it to me again, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, what could my opponent have right here? I'm thinking about betting. It's a pretty wet board. My opponent could already actually have a straight. If he had king jack, it would give him a straight, or he could have jack 8. That would also give him a straight. He could also have some kind of 2 pair hand like 9s or 10s, or queen 10, or 7-9. I mean, there's a lot that beats me right here, considering he did limp in and call. And also there's another flush draw. All I got second pair. So with that being said, you know, I definitely thought about betting, but I reluctantly check, worried about this board. And then the river comes out at ace of spade. It gives me a 2 pair, and once my opponent checks it to me, I bet $50. And then the opponent shoves all in with $149 total. Now, this is definitely something I did not want to see here, because what exactly is he representing here with the ace coming out? Again, he could already have a straight here with king jack or jack 8. And he could definitely have 2 spade cards right here for made flush. And I'm just thinking, why did I even bet on this river for how wet it is? I don't have much info on this particular opponent. So with that being said, I make the fold. I don't know if this is a good fold. This was a tough spot for me, to be honest with you. And I think I kind of played it bad, to be honest. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. How would you have played this? And did I play it bad? Did I play it good? Did I make the right fold? What do you think? Let me know. I'm still learning. I'm still new. So, yeah. Let me know what you think. Our next playable hand, we get dealt Ace Queen of Diamonds. I'm first act in the under the gun position and I raised it up to $20. The cutoff is the only caller and we're heads up. The flop comes out with an ace giving me top pair with a very good kicker, and this is a very dry board. So I decide to check it and my opponent checks it with me. And the turn brings out a 9 of club. This time I lead with $20 with there being a flush draw out there and now a straight draw. The board is getting more wet, so I decided to leave with $20 and the villain calls. And we go to a river that brings out a 3 of spade. This time I'm gonna lead with $50 and my opponent doesn't think too long before calling, and then I show him my 8 pair of aces with queen kicker and he shows 2 pair for aces and 9s. Ouch, I definitely wasn't putting him on that. He was playing pretty passively on the turn and he didn't raise me not one time. It's pretty interesting, and that's definitely not what I expected, but it is what it is. We lose another pot, and this is the end of the session. Yeah, we took a massive loss today, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Our total buy-in was $600, and we cashed out with $149, leaving us with a negative profit of $451. So huge loss, but I learned a lot, and you know, I mean, you guys saw it. We were catching some pretty good hands, but they could have been played a lot better, honestly. There was some hands that I did play great, and I had to made some great calls and won a lot of money. But overall, you know, I had several big bad plays, including the one where I punted and went all in, and unfortunately, it didn't work out, obviously. And there were some other hands where I think variance did hit me in certain situations. One of those hands where I had ace queen, the other guy had ace 9. He ended up getting a 2 pair. I think it was on the turn. That was a very unfortunate situation. And also the one, it was the same guy where he had pocket queens and I had a pair of jacks with the king kicker. Was not putting him on queens at all. That guy was playing very conservative and passively, but it did take some pretty good chunks out of me in that session. So, but I learned a lot overall, so I think I'm okay with it, you know, because we're going to take these lessons and move on to the next and, you know, apply it to our future games. So overall, we're doing good. I mean, we had a total of 3 sessions already since we started this $5,000 bankroll challenge. And we've cashed 2 out of 3, so I think we're on a great track so far. I will say we only profited a total of 203 so far, unfortunately, because of our massive loss today. But you know, if you look at the bright side of things, before we had this session, we were in the green a lot. We were profiting like $70 an hour or something insane like that for low stakes. That's amazing. So I know I can get out of this pretty easily, as long as, you know, variance doesn't get me, of course. Everybody gets variance every once in a while, so hopefully we're not on some type of bad run, but I think I'm confident in coming back out of that, so I'm sure we will climb out of this and, you know, reach our goal. So our total play time for these 3 sessions is 15 hours, giving us an hourly profit of just over $13 an hour, which is not great, I know, but like I said previously, it was pretty high, so I think we can definitely make it climb up there in these next couple of sessions. And I hope you guys enjoyed this session, even though it was a loss. Hope you guys learned something from it, just like I did. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of this $5,000 bankroll challenge.